Just outside the village of Tetbury, there is a mere trickle of sparkling water, the source of the Wiltshire Avon. It isn't the Avon that runs through Shakespeare's Stratford, for this part of England boasts of no less than 3 Avons, perhaps because the name is an Old English word meaning water. A few miles away, the River Thames also comes to life in the same humble manner. Our little Avon has now reached the old town of Malmesbury, whose history dates far back to the days of King Malmud, a ruler of the ancient Britons, from whom the town probably derives its name. Malmesbury today is not only one of the oldest, but also one of the smallest boroughs in the kingdom. From St. John's Bridge, we get a glimpse of the almshouses, once the council house. A pointed archway with ornamental moulding is a fragment of the Knights' Hospital which stood here in the 13th century. Standing proudly on the crest of the hill, we see the Abbey. Built about 1150 as both abbey and monastery, it is a fine example of Norman architecture, and archaeologists claim that in the days of its glory, it was second to none. The chief pride of the Abbey is the south porch, which is regarded as an excellent example of 12th century. Outside, we meet the river again, pursuing its even course. Unlike the mighty rivers of the American continent, English streams are small and short, for at no point are we more than 70 miles from the sea. Little wonder that Britain is a nation of sailors. There is still much to see as we follow the Avon to Bath. From the river's bank, we catch a view of this historic spa. Imposing buildings flank its handsome streets, where once walked such famous characters as Ralph Allen, Jane Austen, and Charles Dickens. But perhaps Bath is most famous for its baths and pump room, where leaders of society, politics, and literature once foregathered to sip the healing waters or bathe in them. And today, visitors still resort to the hot mineral springs as a cure for rheumatism and arthritis. For nearly 2,000 years, the health-giving properties of these natural springs have been recognized, and it was during the Roman age that this fine old bath was erected. The imposing abbey has much grace in the perpendicular style and is full of historic interest. Inside are mural tablets to Beau Nash, the uncrowned king of Bath, William Bingham, the distinguished American senator, and others who have made history. Here the river is delightful. Soon its clear waters will be sullied by the grime of the great Avonmouth docks, but first we shall see them flow through the city of Bristol. Bristol is now our 7th largest city, and besides being a port for the past 800 years, it has many important industries: foodstuffs, motor accessories, rubber, tobacco, and chocolate. The war has caused many new trades to be developed, making the city even busier than before. And Bristol is also a place of beauty and associations with the past. The celebrated old Dutch house, brought from Holland in the 17th century and once the home of the poet Wordsworth, is one of the sights that travellers pause to see. There are strong links between the Bristol Avon and the Americas. Columbus discovered the West Indies, but it was John and Sebastian Cabot who, sailing from the port of Bristol, first set foot on the North American continent, and it is to their memory that this monument was erected. The father of Penn, founder of Pennsylvania, started his adventurous voyage from the same port. In the time of the New England colonies, the supply ships of the colonists plied between Bristol and the towns which were destined to become the great cities of the United States. Thomas Weston, a Bristolian, financed the Mayflower. Soon voyages were extended to Rio and Buenos Aires, and today a large part of the vast trade between Britain and the New World goes through the Bristol Avon. has kept abreast of the times. Many new and imposing commercial enterprises have sprung up. Among the outstanding landmarks, the stately University Tower is a striking example of modern architecture. It is also one of the best equipped universities in the world and is proud of having for its chancellor the Prime Minister of Great Britain, Winston Churchill. It is said that this tower was built with the smoke of 1,000,000 cigarettes, for it was founded and presented to the city by Mr. H.O. Wills. A museum and an extensive art gallery are included in the generous gift of the tobacco magnate who wished to provide his fellow citizens with wider opportunities. Beyond the city, the Avon broadens out into one of the most imposing of English rivers, and the majestic Clifton Suspension Bridge spans a gorge 300 feet above the water. And we reflect with pride that it was on this stretch of the river that Jonathan Hulls tried out the first steamboat. And although the experiment proved unsuccessful, it was by working on Hull's principles that Fulton, an American, made the steamship possible. 7 miles downstream, we reach Avonmouth, where the Bristol municipality have built their extensive docks. Covering an area of over 6 square miles, they are one of the most modern docks in the world. Large quays offer berthing space for hundreds of ships, and dry docks with repair shops are placed at suitable points. Constant and regular arrivals of ships from all parts of the globe carrying foodstuffs and war supplies present scenes of prosperous activity which prove without words Britain's mastery of the seas. Ships, large and small, regularly carry their cargoes to and from Bristol and many other great British ports in face of all threats to the free passage of merchant ships upon their lawful occasions. From the huge warehouses and broad wharves of the Avonmouth docks, vast quantities of our food supplies and the raw materials for our manufactures are distributed all over Great Britain by road and rail. Here, on the other hand, may be seen the output of British workshops and factories. Every ship which reaches Bristol reloads with cargoes which will carry the name and fame of British skill and craftsmanship across the seas into the markets of the world. As we watch the tugs urging the great grey ships out towards the sea, we remember that only a few miles inland, this great river was a dancing trickle of water passing through the peaceful countryside. But here, where the fresh waters meet the salt, it has become a focus of world commerce. Soon, the tugs have done their work and the ship is underway, heading towards the Western Hemisphere. We think of the courage of the seamen who sail these ships, and of the Navy, whose vigilance guards them safely to their destination. Avon that runs through Shakespeare's Stratford, for this part of England boasts of no less than 3 Avons, perhaps because the name is an Old English word meaning water. A few miles away, the River Thames also comes to life in the same humble manner. ornamental moulding is a fragment of the Knights' Hospital which stood here in the 13th century. Standing proudly on the crest of the hill, we see the abbey. Built about 1150 as both abbey and monastery, it is a fine example of Norman architecture, and archaeologists claim that in the days of its glory, it was second to none. Our little Avon has now reached the old town of Malmesbury, whose history dates far back to the days of King Malmud, a ruler of the ancient Britons, from whom the town probably derives its name. Malmesbury today is not only one of the oldest, but also one of the smallest boroughs in the kingdom. From St. John's Bridge, we get a glimpse of the almshouses, once the council house. A pointed archway. Just outside the village of Tetbury, there is a mere trickle of sparkling water, the source of the Wiltshire Avon. It isn't the